Hey everyone, welcome to Eternal Brews. My name is Pojo, and we're back with a nice and silly version of one of our old decks, the Carpet Shuffle, which has always been a fun and silly deck, and sometimes a very competitive one. It's kind of a control meta right now in Eternal. We're seeing a lot of interesting, slower mid-range decks. We're seeing a lot of cool control decks. We're seeing Crystal and Chalice in particular, which is one of the reasons why this particular deck is going to be a little bit weighted towards attachment destruction. Crystal and Chalice runs a lot of relics and expects that you aren't going to be able to destroy them. So the last time that we talked about the Carpet Shuffle list, I had a 2-color deck. It was very, very good. It used Push Onwards, however, which is a card that doesn't exist anymore in open beta, and it used a couple of other cards that don't really quite exist in open beta anymore. And so there have been some changes to the deck, and there have been some ways that we have sort of compensated with that. And one of the things that I did, and one of the many different iterations of this deck that I've run, is a 4-color version, which I really, really enjoy, and I wanted to show off. Secret Pages is now Find the Way if you are an older Eternal person and you remember the original Secret Pages. But it is now the card Find the Way, which is draw a sigil of your choice from your deck. It's depleted when played. This card was insanely strong when it was Secret Pages and it didn't draw a depleted sigil. It's still insanely strong now, and it means that you can actually build some really impressive 4-color decks and 3-color decks, and build some really cool control archetypes where you pull a lot of power out of your deck and really just make your deck a lot more reliable on card draw. So what we're trying to do is we're trying to create a deck that is recreating most of the greatest hits of Carpet Shuffle, along with a couple of new things that we've learned and picked up. The main one being, of course, that we do have as an include a single nesting Avisaur, which is a card that's very effective for getting a second sight to be a 0-cost card, which can be very important for Carpet Shuffle decks, since Carpet Shuffle decks often now no longer echo Static Bolt, but instead echo Second Sight to get infinite amounts of draws. However, there's a lot to be said for just echoing a Static Bolt and going straight for lethal to the face, so that's what we're going to talk about with this particular deck. Alright, so for those of you who aren't familiar with the particulars of this list, the idea behind this deck is that we have this card Elysian Trailblazer, which says the top spell of your deck gets Echo. And what we are trying to do is trying to interact with Elysian Trailblazer by basically just playing a game around our hand. We're going to shuffle around on the carpet, we're going to build up static, and then we're going to kill our opponent in one giant blast. So what we do here is we Excavate on turn 6, and put Static Bolt on top of our deck, play Elysian Trailblazer, and give Static Bolt Echo. Static Bolt will typically be a 2 or 3 damage spell at this point. When you draw it, you'll get a copy of Static Bolt, and both copies will get +2, which means that Static Bolt will go from being a 3 to a 5 damage spell. That means you have 2 Static Bolts in your hand, or a good 10 damage. If you do this again, you'll have something close to 6, 7 times 3, that'll be 14, 21 damage. And if you manage to get a 4 Static Bolt in any fashion, then that's going to be instant lethal for your opponent. And while that may sound complicated, it's actually fairly simple to do. It can be something of a trick, but it is easier than it looks, especially with the way that this deck works. This deck likes to play around its own hand and do fun things with its hand. To that extent, we do need to defend our hand strategy quite a bit. We run 4 Lightning Storms in the deck, and we're also running 2 of the Withering Witch, a card that enables Lightning Storms to combo pretty well, and also sort of functions as a single target removal spell for big cards like Sandstorm Titan that really pressure damage and make things a bit scary for you. Withering Witch can also interact pretty well with some of the other things that I have seen lately on the ladder, just stuff that's using lots of buffs. I've found it to be okay against quite a few different setups, so I'm kind of enjoying the card in here now. I'm not sure if it's going to be a permanent staple, but it's not a bad card in this situation by any means, and it works well for getting any sort of large unit in range of a 2 damage Static Bolt or a Lightning Storm. So really, really fun stuff. We keep 1 Backlash on hand. That's for Rain of Frogs, that's for opponents' backlashes, that's for basically anything that's going to disrupt your strategy. You want to hold on to that and use it in particular to either save your own life or to save your strategy from getting completely disrupted. So really, really solid card for just making sure that your own strategy goes off. We keep 1 of those in there. We run 3 Feeding Times. I was running 2 Feeding Times and 2 Death Strikes, but I changed up the sigils a little bit, I changed up the power a little bit, and the influence now no longer requires double shadow, which is important because you have to keep the number of influence requirements fairly low, since you're already at a requirement of hitting 4 different colors. So we're trying to hit only like 1 to 2 of any particular color, and only 1 of our 2 splashes, which are fire and shadow. So feeding time is really, really effective, in particular against a lot of big threats, but it's also good against some of the smaller and more difficult threats. At the moment, Ephemeral Wisp is very popular. Feeding Time is a pretty good card to get rid of those. It's also good for getting rid of Dawnwalkers, getting rid of False Princes, Cersos, just anything that's going to be in your way and pushing too much damage. There are some amount of damage that you're going to just want to take, but for the most part, Feeding Time can really help you out. We also run 1 Decay. This card is very useful against Armory, since it gives you a little bit of a health gain. It disables armor from Throne Warden, that kind of thing. And it's just generally effective at like keeping you alive a little bit longer while you set up those static bolts to win the game. We also run a Passage of Eons. This card is strictly anti-Chalice tech. I wouldn't recommend it in other metas, and I would replace it probably with an Azindil's Gift, and try and move the deck back into Triple Shadow and away from Double Time. But Passage of Eons is a really, really fun card against Crystal and Chalice. We'd like to see it played, and I'm going to definitely give it a run here as a sideboard card. You generally want to, with these Carpet Shuffle style decks, tailor your removal based on what you're seeing in the meta, which means that you have to be in kind of a stable meta to play a Carpet Shuffle deck, and you have to be kind of in a slow meta to play a Carpet Shuffle deck. Fortunately, we're in a little bit of both of those. People are playing some relatively similar decks. There's a lot of lack of inspiration, I would say, going on, or like at the very least, there's a lot of sameness with particular types of decks. So I'm seeing a lot of Chalice, I'm seeing a lot of like sort of mid-rangey stuff, I'm seeing a lot of slow stuff like Armory, and as a result, Passage of Eon seems like a really, really solid setup. Finally, we have our card draw. Wisdom of the Elders and Scheme and Quarry all get us deeper into the deck and dig out our particular combo pieces, as well as making them cheaper. If you can make Second Sight cheaper, in particular with a card like Nesting Avisaur, then you can give it Echo with Elysian Trailblazer, and every single time that you cast Second Sight, you put a Second Sight on top of your deck. This gives you an infinite draw combo, which is really, really effective, so it's a really, really fun way to just basically get your deck into the commanding control position, and that's one of the things that Carpet Shuffle decks can do extremely well, is win control matchups against other control decks. Finally, we have Celestial Omen as a sort of one-of pick out anything that we particularly need. And the 4 Excavates can recur that particular thing over and over again. They cost us card advantage, but with the amount of advantage we're gaining out of Wisdom of the Elders and Elysian Trailblazer, we usually don't mind that too much. That's about the basics of the deck. We'll talk a little bit more about it in the Postmortem, but for the moment, let's go ahead and play a few games and see how it goes. Here we are, we're up against Miles Davis. Opening hand has Time and Find the Way, so I'm pretty happy with it, I would say. We get to pick up our blue, play it depleted, and then we can play a Lightning Storm if we get swarmed out. Or we can play a Static Bolt if we're dealing with smaller aggro threats. If we're not dealing with any aggro threats, well, more power to us. Shadow here. Pick up that blue. And then we also need a double Shadow for Death Strike and a red for Quarry, so a bunch of stuff to pick up here. I think I'm gonna just Second Sight, since that way I can put the Static Bolt back on top, or I can put a Find the Way back on top. Since I have found a 5th power, I am just going to put the Static Bolt back on top and get the extra damage out of it. Miles here is also playing Second Sight. Perhaps he's got a Carpet Shuffle deck of his own. Find the Way gets me double blue. I am still going to be short of the double Shadow for Death Strike if I do it this way, but I think that's okay. Play our Primal Sigil, and next turn we can Wisdom of the Elders.
Time quickens.
Or potentially just Static Bolt that. Actually, Static Bolt is really good here because I need to get it into the Void. And once it's in the Void, I can Excavate and Elysian Trailblazer it. So we get rid of the Initiate, deny him his 4th power, which he apparently needed. That's good news. I didn't find an undepleted power, but I do have Seed of Cunning here, and now I'm capable of playing Backlash to defend myself against any untowards Rain of Frogs. Or just a Sabotage. What else you got? start my turn. Alright, Excavate gets back Static Bolt. Trailblazer echoes Static Bolt. And then I end my turn. Miles is power screwed, so not likely to have a huge amount of defense here. Annihilate on the Trailblazer means I have a little bit less push. But I don't feel particularly upset about that. Initiate is the card he needs to advance, but I kind of need Second Sight to win. So, tough decisions. I'm considering Omening here. But I could just wait. I think we'll just wait. At end of turn, if I need to Death Strike something, that's fine. But more likely, we're just going to Omen for a Second Sight and start getting copies of the Static Bolts. Nesting Avisaur gets him a discount. We don't care about that very much. Omen. Gets me Excavate if I want it. Withering Witch is cute, Feeding Time is cute. Second Sight is probably the main card that I'm looking for. We could go for Excavate instead, but yeah, I think card draw is more important. Second Sight here. Okay. Feeling pretty comfy with that. We'll go ahead and ditch the Static Bolt there. And I can either Lightning Storm or Death Strike. I could Lightning Storm Static Bolt too. That would solve the current problem. Yeah, that actually seems good. Lightning Storm. Static Bolt. And now we have a handle on the board. If there are Clock Roaches, we're not too worried about them. And Excavate gets us back the Static Bolt, which we should do. So there's 2 7-damage Static Bolts. That's pretty close to lethal already. Can hold on to them or can throw them away. I think I'm going to opt for throwing them away, because there's always a chance of a Rain of Frogs here. And the next 2 cards on top of my deck are 9-damage Static Bolts. So that'll be the game. Oh my! It was a Carpet Shuffle deck. And one that somehow managed to draw 4 Static Bolts in hand. Goodness gracious. Alright. Good to see the mirror. Alright, our opening hand contains a Second Sight, a Withering Witch, a Find the Way, and a Seek Power. The Seek Power and the Find the Way are probably the most important cards here. Once we get all of the power that we need, we're pretty likely to draw into the answers that we want. So we're going to go ahead and keep this. And I will Primal Sigil, Seek Power for a time here. Then I can either choose to Second Sight to duplicate the Find the Ways, or I can choose to play it straight. I think we're going to Second Sight for the Find the Ways. That looks pretty good. Okay, so next turn we play a Find the Way, and then we probably play a Depleted Sigil. Find the Way for Depleted Sigil. Let's get Shadow. Next turn I can Scheme, or I can choose to Find the Way again. I think I'm kind of into Scheme here. Decay will be pretty important for this type of deck. Excavate's a pretty crucial card. Elysian Trailblazers may be even more powerful than Excavate. Yeah, we'll take the Elysian Trailblazer since that's the card advantage card. And play a Shadow out here. A Time Sigil plus a Crystalline Chalice. No particular concerns there. We're going to play a Primal. And I think I'm going to play Elysian Trailblazer here.
Come, this way.
I have the Nesting Avisaur in hand, so I can put stuff on top of my deck. I'm less concerned about the immediate card advantage he's gaining as by the, like, overall amount of push that he's going to be pushing with. Alright, gave himself Endurance, that's fine. I could attack here, but it seems unnecessary. Let's find the way for our third Shadow, since we need that. And then I will also find the way for a Fire Sigil. He wants to permafrost my Trailblazer, so be it. Primal happens. Second Chalice happens. He's definitely got card draw available, so that's something we'll have to worry about. Withering Witch can put everything that he buffs with Chalice into Lightning Storm range, so that's pretty exciting, and we'll have to be pretty careful to do that when we can. I'm just going to end my turn here. Amaran Camel is a big deal. I would say that card's going to put him outside of lethal, and thus we should be worried about it. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to Withering Witch. And I'm going to Lightning Storm. And I guess I'll hit him for 3 just to get rid of that extra health that he's gained. Play our depleted Fire Sigil, and now Elysian Trailblazer plus Avisaur makes a combo. Even a pretty good one. Ephemeral Wisps are getting bigger and bigger. Okay, so I play a Fire Sigil here. Nesting Avisaur puts Static Bolt on top of my deck. Is that the best way to go about this, is the question. I think it is.
Come, this way.
As I now have 2 zero-cost Static Bolts, that's a pretty decent amount of extra damage. There's still... Oh, there is no extra unit with Lightning Storm on top of my deck. I could have tried to wait for Second Sight, but I think that would have been a mistake. Swinging with both of these guys. Let's go ahead and block the 3/4. Or should we? Actually, maybe we just take this. 8 damage and we can push. Time Sigil. Scorpion Wasp has Quick Draw and Endurance. Alright, so we're not getting great attacks in. Unless we choose to do something crazy. Also, all of his stuff has Endurance, so choosing to take that damage was not really a big deal. Gonna go ahead and Seek Power here. Grab a Time. Zap this for 4. Swing for 3. And end my turn for now. Twinning Ritual gets him a copy of something in his hand. Odds are I could Backlash that and get a pretty decent amount of value out of it. Let's go ahead and do that. Go ahead and block the 4 and the 3. He can get them back next turn, but that's okay. From here, I'm looking for Second Sights. Amaran Camel's getting him some life back. Second sight's getting him even more life back. Okay. Swing for 3 here. I will feeding time this guy. I think we will Lightning Storm Static Bolt. That gets rid of the camel. It allows us to pressure damage again. We are out of cards, but an Excavate is pretty good for us. And there are some cards that can still help us out here. A Zindel's Gift would be the strongest. Second sight again. Okay. So he's digging deep, looking for power, looking for answers. Elysian Banner gets him back 1 Ephemeral Wisp. Crystal and Chalice doesn't do a lot for him. Wisdom of the Elders is a really good card for me. Especially because it gives me Excavate. Swing for 3 here. Excavate gives me 5, 6 damage. So 12 total, which is not quite enough to kill him. Seek Power doesn't do a lot for me. Swing for 3 again. Take 4 again. A Channel the Tempest would be very bad. I want to Excavate for potential lethal. I think it's worth it. There's 5, 6. Swing for 3. There's 10. And there we go. Got him. Alright, here we are against Mark of Confusion. Opening has Second Sight, Static Bolt, and Trailblazer. That's enough to make me want to keep it, I think. I'm gonna hold on, see what we can find. I do need to get time here. I do have double blue, which is good for Wisdom of the Elders. That's an important setup. The way our colors are distributed, we need 1 shadow for most things. Three shadow for a Zindel's Gift, but double time, double primal, and a single red are the primary things. So play that blue-purple. Mark of Confusion, playing Diplomatic Seal, okay. Another blue here, and then we can second sight at end of turn. You generally want a second sight at end of turn just to avoid, like, you know, a pilfer, anything crazy like that. Second sight. Got another Static Bolt, so I've already got some good removal in my hand. That's going to be important against Praxis-y mid-range type decks. This looks like a variation on the mid-range deck that Mono S came up with. Go ahead and Primal Sigil there. We got the Excavate. Pretty happy to see that. Still need to find time to make the Excavate happen, but I think other than that I'm feeling okay. There's a Wisdom. Wisdom of the Elders definitely gets you decent card advantage here. Fire Sigil. And Mark is playing Whispering Wind. Okay. I need to have a Static Bolt in the Void for next turn, so I'm definitely going to zap the Whispering Wind. End my turn. If I draw an undepleted power next turn, I can Excavate Trailblazer. If I don't, then, well... Honestly, I think I'm going to have to Static Bolt that, too. So let's scheme. See if we can pick up a Lightning Storm. Withering Witch is close, but no cigar. Seed of Chaos better suits my needs, I think. Gets me Shadow. I could go for double time. Let's take Seed of Chaos. We'll Static Bolt here. And that seems fine. Now we're likely to see the Scouting Party, though. And from there it's going to get hectic. Wisdom? Okay. No party. That's good. Skycrag Banner. I cut in yet another Static Bolt, which is really good. I'm going to Excavate here. Still no Backlash. I'm terrified of the Backlash here, but...
Come, this way.
Looks like Trailblazer's got to pick it up. Next turn, I can Celestial Omen for Static Bolts. I think pretty much I've got this covered now. So this is 6-7 damage in the bank. He's found a torch. His deck's probably got Flame Blasts in there somewhere. Also probably got Obliterates, but he's going to have a hard time racing me down from 26. We could see a scouting party here, and that's certainly what we're going to see. Okay. So I've got 7, 6, 7 damage. That's 14, 20. Trying to think of the fastest way that I can win this. Omen doesn't get me quite what I need. I don't want to throw any of these Static Bolts early, or too early anyways. I think I just want a Celestial Omen for whatever I need next turn. Maybe I Omen now to avoid a Backlash. And that way I have 3 8 damage Static Bolts, which is 8, 16, 24 damage. Just a skosh short, actually. Alright, I'm going to Omen for a second sight, I believe. Although an Excavate does the job pretty similarly. Yeah, let's actually get the Excavate here. He gets his full card draw. That's totally fine. Seed of Fury hits.
Can you hear me?
Whispering Wind gets him some card draw. I didn't go for anything crazy here, so I'm not too worried about that. I could Excavate Static Bolt and play Trailblazer here, but I think it's better to just Echo hit him for 7. Am I gonna see a Backlash here? I'm still seeing something that looks like a Backlash. Let's Echo hit him for 7 again. I'll go ahead and end my turn and see if I can get a power out of his hand. Okay, that's not a Backlash. He will Excavate, get the next Static Bolts back, and kill him at end of turn. He's got to deal 24 damage to me in one go, so good luck with that. Torch hits, that's 3. There's another 6 here. He can muster as much as 8 out of a Flame Blast. That's 14. Even if he has a Backlash, that's not going to be enough. Discarding the Permafrost is a good idea. You could pull a combination of Torches and Flame Blasts that turns out bad for me.
With this, you can't miss.
Ooh, Gunsmith's a pretty solid damage card. That's close to 8. Okay, Wisdom of the Elders definitely doesn't do it, though. That's game. Echo for 9. Echo for 9. Good game. That's it for today's video. So here's a green version of the deck. We've cut out the Quarry. The Quarry is a splash here, so like it is a basically just a small red include that we're fine with having because we have Find a Way. Harsh Rule is a little bit deeper and a little bit harder to get to, but because it's so much higher up, because it's such a harder spell to cast in general, we don't usually mind as much, and we're okay adding a little bit of extra complexity to get to that Harsh Rule. It can be worth it. It's definitely a more slow control version of the deck. You can roll Channel the Tempests in this if you like. That's upping the influence requirements yet again, but it's another good way to sort of make the deck a little bit slower for the slower metas, for the Chalice metas, that kind of things. So yeah, if you're interested in the decks, go ahead and give them a whirl. They'll be in the link in the description below. Thank you guys so much for watching. Feel free to like or subscribe, and let me know if you like this video. Thanks so much, and I will see you next time. Bye!